What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the, I don't even know, showmefootball.com podcast. We don't really do that too much anymore. Another YouTube video, Mizzou related video. I'm joined by Connor today because I haven't done too much Mizzou offseason stuff, but there was some news yesterday that Mizzou may be adding a new quarterback, and the QB addition is worth talking about, in my opinion, especially since it's been something that's kind of been a touchy subject for most of the offseason. A lot of us thought that Mizzou was going to roll with Brady Cook, Tyler Macon, and Sam Horn heading into next year and just let the best man win. Then there was some speculation that they may add a transfer QB if the right one was out there. We heard rumors about guys like Spencer Rattler or JT Daniels or something like that, but it kind of seemed like Drink didn't know whether he wanted to shit or get off the pot when it came to adding a transfer QB, but he did have that press conference not too long ago where he said that he basically said that he still wouldn't rule it out if the right guy came along. And then there was a report from the Mizzou fan club Twitter account, which has gotten a few scoops so far, saying Jayden Daniels had signed with Mizzou, which doesn't mean he's committed to Mizzou, but it means there is interest. And Gabe DeArmond of Power Mizzou let out an official report today that Jayden Daniels is visiting Mizzou, which makes it sound like there's a pretty good chance when this is all said and done, Jayden Daniels will be the quarterback of Mizzou, or he'll at least be able to battle for a spot this spring. So, Connor, I don't know. What do you think of Jayden Daniels, him possibly coming here, since it's a pretty good possibility? And what are your thoughts on the quarterback situation? Because I kind of accepted that we were just going to roll with Brady Cook and Tyler Macon and freshman Sam Horn, and we would just see what happens. But looks like Drink is actually going and adding a quarterback.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm some sort of Jayden Daniels expert, but nothing I've seen from him really wows me. He seems to be a very run first guy, and I'm not sure if that's going to succeed in the SEC, but I mean, we tried to run it a lot with Connor Bazelak, and obviously he couldn't do it. And in the bowl game, we saw Brady Cook run the ball a lot. So if that's what Drink wants to do at the quarterback position, Jayden Daniels is better at that than anybody we have on rosters. So that's cool, I guess. But I'm with the Drinkwitz offense for some reason. I'm just expecting more of a thrower of the football, if you will. And so the quarterback I wanted, well, the first guy I wanted was Jackson Dart. I wanted Dart so bad, but we obviously didn't get him. And the consolation quarterback that I wanted to bring in was JT Daniels. I was really high on him, and I wanted him to come in for a season, but that increasingly looks like it's not going to happen. So, I mean, competition at the quarterback position is never a bad thing. We saw Drink really get attached to Bazelak too much this past season, and he didn't know when to pull him. So as long as that doesn't happen and there's an open competition and the best quarterback wins, then bringing in more quarterbacks is a good thing. But I just really don't know if Jayden Daniels even wins that. I can probably predict it to be similar to the original Sean Robinson versus Bazelak controversy, I guess. But yeah, nothing really strikes me as great about Jayden Daniels. His teammates certainly don't seem like they're going to miss him. But yeah, not really thrilled by this, but quarterback competition is always a good thing.
You see, I think that Jayden Daniels transferring in that video that was out there floating around of his teammates, like happy that he left, I guess, to me, that was just kind of like the saltiness of college teammates that felt like they were let down by their teammate who wanted to go elsewhere. But I read a few articles on Jayden Daniels, including this one I'll just read an excerpt from. And it really just sounds like that the situation at Arizona State isn't all that rosy. And as you and I are very familiar with, Herm Edwards, sounds like he doesn't have that program running very well down there
Shocker.
in Arizona State. So I'll just read this excerpt real quick. This is a crippling blow to Herm Edwards' program, talking about Jayden Daniels transferring. ASU was already under NCAA investigation for alleged improper contact during the COVID-19 dead period. 2 assistants were fired with cause last month, and 2 others chose to resign. Daniels announced on December 2nd that he'd be returning to school for another season. Edwards chose not to pursue transfer QB Spencer Rattler, who was reportedly interested in ASU, which I also think maybe encouraged Daniels to look around the fact they were kind of secretly recruiting Rattler. But returning to his home state, Rattler would be. However, he selected South Carolina. As a true freshman in 2019, Daniels started 12 of 13 games for the Sun Devils, leading them to an 8-4 record. He completed 60.7% of his passes for just about 3,000 yards and a 17 touchdown to 2 interception ratio. Daniels also ran for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns. ASU played in only 4 games in 2020 due to the pandemic. Daniels connected on 58.3% of his throws for 701 yards and 5 TDs compared to just 1 interception, another 200 yards rushing. Then 2021, the most recent season, was a little bit of a different story. Daniel still completed 65.4% of his passes and had 2,381 yards passing and 10 touchdowns, but also got picked off 10 times and then ran for 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. ASU finished with an 8-5 record. So it seems like for whatever reason, towards the end, things kind of went into a tailspin for really that entire program in general, but Daniels didn't like the way the season ended. He regressed a little bit in 2021. He still seemed to have pretty good production, but for some reason, he could not stop throwing the ball to the other team, which is also something that Bazelak kind of ended up doing this past season. He threw a lot of WTF interceptions that really made you just go like, what the heck was he looking at? But you know, I am never going to be opposed to bringing in a quarterback like Daniels, former 4-star recruit who showed to produce. You know, he's played on a team that has won 8 games multiple times. I think a lot of people would be pretty happy if Mizzou won at least 8 games next year. They need to start showing progress, and 8 games would definitely be a step in the right direction. And if Drink feels like Daniels is his best option to get him to at least 8 wins next year, you know, I'm gonna trust him on that. I'm a fan of this. I like bringing in the most talent possible and just letting the guys battle it out. I'm not worried about hurt feelings at the quarterback position. A lot of people are asking, what does this mean for Cook and Macon? Oh no, they might transfer. So what? Let the best man win.
Yeah, I feel like just bringing in more talent is the right thing to do, but I just have questions on whether or not he can be the guy. Because from the description that you just said, sounds like he's mobile Bazelak, like really strong freshman year, but kind of fell apart towards the end of this past season, throwing a lot of picks. Like it just sounds like he's Bazelak with wheels. But I mean, if he comes in and wins the job, great. The only scenario where this really ends bad for us is if Drink insists on him being the starter like he did with Bazelak last year. But this is college. Roster spots are not really worth too much, so it makes sense just to load up on as many players as possible. And I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but one thing that I also consider is I think the jump from Pac-12 football to SEC football is a little more significant than people might realize.
Yeah.
So that's also a concern of mine. But if he can come in, run the ball, I mean, it looks like he would come in and best case scenario be another Brad Smith, and I wouldn't complain about another Brad Smith.
You know, I watching his highlights got a lot of Kelly Bryant vibes. And although Mizzou fans have a sour taste left in their mouths from Kelly Bryant, if the second half of the season collapse not happen, Kelly Bryant is remembered a lot more fondly. He was actually great for the first half of his last season at Mizzou. But when I watch Jayden Daniels, I think he's more of an elusive runner than Kelly. And I think he has a little bit better of an arm. The throws that I watched, it seems like Jayden Daniels has a much better deep ball than Connor Bazelak, which I'm sure is music to Mizzou fans' ears. We definitely need someone that can throw the ball downfield. But it is worth noting that a lot of that was to NFL caliber receivers that Jayden Daniels had to play with. We know that Mizzou kind of has lacked that receiver for a very long time, but that seems to finally be changing with guys like Luther Burden, Dominic Lovett, Mookie Cooper, all those guys coming in, Jamarian Wayne, Makai Miller from the most recent recruiting class. So I would be interested to see what Daniels can do with this offense. Again, I'm going to trust Drink on this one if he thinks Daniels is the best option. And I also think this means that he did not like what he has seen so far out of Cook and Macon. He's not satisfied. And I'm glad to see that he's not just settling. He's going to go out there, he's going to try. That's why he's bringing in Daniels. And I'm interested to see what happens because I think Daniels has serious talent. I think things didn't work out at Arizona State for whatever reason. And yeah, like you mentioned, the jump from Pac 12 to the SEC is definitely going to be big. But I think he's a really good athlete and I think he's got potential. The interceptions are something that's going to have to get cleaned up, though, because some of the interceptions I saw from him, the ball just totally sailed or he just threw a complete duck, which is also something we kind of saw from Bazelak. He just was completely off target at times, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, one I mean the mobility is definitely a major positive. There were times where there were designed runs for Bazelak, and that was just frankly mind-boggling. But you mentioned that it might be that Drink isn't satisfied with what he's been seeing from Cook and Macon, and I'm not sure that's necessarily the case from what I've seen when both of them are on the field. I think both of them are capable enough quarterbacks. I don't know if any of them are really stars, but I think if Daniels comes, it's going to be an open competition, and Drink's going to go with whoever he feels is the best quarterback.
Yeah, like I'm not saying Cook or Macon do not have the talent to still win the job. Like who knows, maybe Daniels comes in and he still doesn't win the QB job here and Brady Cook is the starter week 1. But obviously, if they had shown enough, then Drink wouldn't be bringing in another quarterback. And granted, I liked what I saw out of Brady Cook in the bowl game. I thought his performance was pretty solid, especially because he was playing with like half our roster, and Tyler Beatty didn't even play in that game. And Cook still put up pretty good numbers. His only problem in that game was he just couldn't really punch it in the red zone, which, it's the kid's first start. So I'm not going to hold it against him too much. I still think Cook has potential. And I think if he doesn't work at Mizzou, he's going to have a good college career wherever he goes after Mizzou. But I definitely love bringing in Daniels and just creating more competition.
Yeah, because we need a good quarterback. I think that we'll get a lot more success next year because, like, looking at our roster, it wasn't bad, and it wasn't bad last year, but we lost several games because of poor quarterback play. So, yeah, bottom line is we've said it a few times, but just bring in more quarterback talent. More likely that the best quarterback will win, and you'll get a better quarterback, even if it's not the one you bring in. Competition makes players better. So, yeah, just there's not really too many downsides, but it's not something that I'm going to get thrilled about.
Well, and see, the thing is, too, like, I feel like Drink has killed the portal this offseason. I'm excited for this incoming recruiting class. I think the roster, a lot of the pieces are there. Quarterback play is one of the biggest things that this next season is hinging on. Like if they don't have good quarterback play, that's going to tell you how many games that they'll be able to win. And like you said, there were several games last year that I think if they made the switch from Baselak to Cook earlier, they would have had a better record. I mean, think about it. They had a historically bad defense for half the year and they still won or they still went 500. So if they can just up the quarterback play, I'm excited. And assuming the defense isn't a complete disaster next season, I think Mizzou could have a pretty good year.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, but
As
this is the
always.
Missouri Tigers at the end of the day. Optimism doesn't get you far.
Yeah, that's true. You always got to be cautiously optimistic with this team. But We'll definitely have more content on the way regarding Mizzou, especially when we get closer to the real season. Maybe we'll do something after the spring game because I think me and you both plan on attending that. And we did a
Yeah, I need
show.
to figure out when it is though.
Yeah, and we did a show last year after the spring game. So we'll see what happens. But I definitely wanted to talk to you about this because I think Mizzou adding a quarterback is a pretty big deal, especially the one of Jayden Daniels caliber. So I'm excited. I like the addition, assuming that it happens. Of course, it's not official yet. He's visiting this weekend. If everything goes well, it sounds like Mizzou will land him. But that's all I got for today, guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. Leave down in the comments what you think of the potential Jayden Daniels addition, and also go follow us on social media. I'll leave both of our links in the description. So we'll see y'all in the next one.